everybody. How you doing? Woo! Welcome to the PHLY Flyers Postgame Show. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. PHLY Flyers Postgame is presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Had to break out the dog mask for the win in that one, JP. And
Absolutely,
as always, Brenna kills it with the thumbnail caption, just like we all predicted.
Exactly.
Ivan Fedotov. You know, that's all of the headlines going into this one where, Matvei Michkov scratched, and it doesn't seem as if the ESPN broadcast prepared to talk about anybody but Michkov.
Oh my God.
They didn't have,
or the coding kid on
they knew about the
guy.
Emergency backup goalie, and they knew about Matvei Michkov, and that seems to be about it. Two guys who did not get onto the ice in this game. But post-game, man, I got to tell you, more than anything, I feel really good for Ivan Fedotov after that one. On one end of the ice, you have a Russian goalie looking for his 300th career win. You know, one of the most decorated goalies in the league. He's a star. He's one of the best goalies of his generation. The other Russian goalie looking for his first career win. You know, I joked before the show, I don't know, could this emergency kid, maybe be better than Fedotov? And it turns into a goalie battle.
It really did.
Not a ton of shots, especially. I was very pleased with the defensive effort to keep Fedotov clean. But 1-1 through 65 minutes, a goalie battle, and Fedotov outduels his legendary countryman in the shootout, makes 2 saves in the shootout. Meanwhile, oh, yeah, no problem. Team can't score. Why wouldn't we get 2 by Vasilevsky, who came in 22-7 career in shootouts? In a thing that's relatively a coin flip, he is a beast in shootouts typically, but Travis Konechny comes down, feathers one in.
That was nice.
Owen Tippett
nice patience.
Ices it. It's hard to argue with the effort tonight, especially defensively, but it's all about Ivan Fedotov.
Man.
He may have got lucky at some points. Definitely looked like a fish out of water on the Kucherov wraparound. That said, Rasmus Ristolainen got undressed on that play. And Kucherov had 140-some points last year. He leads the league in goals.
He knows a thing or two.
He could have played that a whole hell of a lot better, but Kucherov's real good. Overall, very impressed with Ivan Fedotov.
Fedotov? I thought he was Bobrovsky out now.
He looked tremendous, yeah.
No, but dude, that was awesome. And look, I thought it was a great team effort tonight. Fedotov did his thing, and more importantly, this was probably the best performance he's given us in a Flyers uniform. That's only going to help his confidence for right now. But yeah, I mean, dude, the shootout was big. He made some big stops when needed. There were times where he looked, a little discombobulated. But listen, again, he got the job done. And that's only going to help his confidence, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to look awkward. That's the thing that's going. That's just what he looks like out there. And I'm sure there are ways to get him more well-positioned. Hey, man, maybe just stay in your net sometimes. I tweeted at one point in the game, I wonder if he ever, played lacrosse. Because sometimes he comes so far out on a weird angle, a puck carrier will be in the right wing corner, and all of a sudden he's at the circle. And is he coming out on defense? He's joining the defense against the puck carrier, you could do in lacrosse. I just was where's he going? But that's just gonna be what he is sometimes. And if he can kind of just keep it under control, the way he did in the shootout, he just stayed square, made himself big, and that's all you can do in those situations. He's going to have a lot better time than he's had for the most part. He did in his debut when he came in relief against the Islanders on April 1st last year. He stopped 19 at 21. He definitely breathed some life into the team. But other than that, he's been his save percentages. That was a .905. Then he had a 789, then a 692, and then to start this season, let's see, 839, 792, 826. So stopping 22 of 23 tonight for what's that, like a 960 something, a 957.
Yeah.
That's a hell of an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm obviously like, listen, we still have question marks about Fedotov, but like we're hoping, and we'll talk to Charlie about this. Like this could be the building block that he needs, and like the only real thing is like, look, obviously he's a big boy. He's gonna cover up a lot of the net, but this is the NHL. These are skilled offensive players, as you saw with Kucherov, who made a great heads up play on that goal. Moving laterally in that athletic ability, how quick can he move is something that we're just gonna keep an eye out, but. Yeah, Bill. I mean, like you talked about it, 22 saves off those 23 shots, and he was a big force and a big reason why they got the win here tonight.
No, certainly. Tampa doesn't. They came in like 5th or 6th in scoring. We talked about in pregame, but they do it on not a ton of shots. And you look at it and go, oh well, they have a lot of stars. And Braden points out tonight that certainly helps. But it's a team that shoots for a very high percentage rather than what we just saw a couple nights ago against Carolina, where it's, we get 40 shots a game, so good luck.
Yeah.
Some of them are going to go in because that's just the way it goes. But this team, Tampa, comes in. They don't get nearly as many. The Flyers outshot their opponent for 31 to 23.
Second period saw a lot of shots.
I wish before we went live, had gone through the box scores. I want to know how many times the Flyers have outshot their opponents this year, let alone hit 30. But it's not very many. This is not the team from last year that really, or at least it hasn't been, really suppresses opponent shots and really puts up a ton of their own. Tonight, that's what they were. They only allowed 23. As good as Fedotov was, and more than anything, this is, like you said, hopefully a building block. Again, he did get lucky at points. There were things that it was like, oh man, okay, they got a post there. They flubbed a shot. But a goalie has to get lucky sometimes. The way shooters are in this league, like you look at what happened with Vasilevsky tonight, couple of posts, he gets a couple of saves off the shaft of his stick. Like those are 1/4 of an inch plays that all of a sudden it's, oh, he got lit up to, oh, he had a real good game. He only gave up 1 in 65 minutes, like it can go that way. Fedotov needs that luck, but finally he's had some success. Like he finally gets to feel what a win tastes like. He is now the 51st goalie in franchise history to record a win.
Woo!
He joins Cam Talbot, funny enough, as the goalies with 1 win in their Flyers career.
Oh,
so
great,
hopefully he's no longer
Great
in the 0 win category. I meant to take a screenshot of it so I could. So Bren could put it up, but I totally forgot. But it's just good to see. And I'm gonna ask Charlie, do you think this could maybe go the way of maybe him working his way back into that number 2 spot? Because just like a week ago, they were asked, John Tortorella was asked, and he's like, we're looking at Kolosov right now. And Kolosov, we don't really know exactly what the demands were or what his prerequisites for coming over. There was the report that the Flyers had until like the end of October to impress him or get him into the NHL or do something that made him want to stay and not be loaned back to the KHL. So perhaps those conditions were met. I don't know if he's going to be sent back to the AHL, what's going to happen, but I'm happy for Fedotov, and I'm very interested to see how the goalie situation is handled when Cam York comes back and they need the roster spot because they're carrying 3 right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that second spot is obviously up for grabs. No one's really taking it. It's kind of like that Phillies 5th starter for situation from the Phillies season, but now it's there for a taking, and this is like a good stepping stone for Fedotov to kind of take it. But selfishly, Bill, I have a question. Like, what is going on in Russia? Like, all these goalies over the last decade.
They are a goalie factory, man.
It's like Alabama with wide receivers.
They talked a lot tonight about Team Canada and the upcoming Four Nations because John Cooper is going to be the Team Canada coach,
right?
And Four Nations tournament, Olympics in a couple of years. Listen, Team Canada is unbelievable, of course, because it's Canada.
Always,
it's where the game is from. But you look at the goaltender position, and it's like, I don't know, Cam Talbot? Like it really, you look at it, it's like, I don't know, like Carey Price is gone, like Carter Hart obviously gone. Like these are guys that that had been counted on or they were counting on down the line, and now they're no longer around. And like I feel like they had a summit a couple of years ago, like it was a national crisis. Like we debate gun control, they debate like how come we're not making goalies anymore? Like it's like a national conversation about what they should do with goaltenders, and they just don't really have any. But then you look at Russia, it's like, yeah, man, the Flyers have Fedotov, they have Kolosov, who's Belarusian, but playing in the KHL. It's basically the same. And, the Zavragin's still over in the KHL, 19, tearing it up. And you look like, Sam Ersson, like they don't even, the Flyers don't have a Canadian goaltender. They don't have one. I guess maybe Cal Peterson, he might be American. I'm not sure.
That is crazy, though.
Like, it's just a weird thing that, Russia has been a fact. You look at Shesterkin, Sorokin, like these guys, Vasilevsky, these guys are great.
That's just going to catch up to you, Bill. And now it's time for Canada. It's caught up to them.
No, it's, eventually, it is like being a goalie sucks. Like
you have to be crazy to do it, dude.
Like, you have to be insane. And you get blamed every time the puck goes in the net. Like, the equipment is expensive. So if I'm a parent, I'm like, no, you're not playing net. Like, I do think that, like, a lot of times, like, leagues and teams, like, give you a break on joining because it's like, well, we need one. Yeah, no one wants to do it. But, like, the equipment's expensive, all that stuff. And, it's just one of those weird things. But Ivan Fedotov, first career win. Very impressive tonight. Looking forward to seeing if we see him again, maybe even on Saturday. Sam Erson's on the trip. He's skating. We don't know exactly the extent of his injury. But Kolosov, maybe it was more precautionary, but he gets banged up to the point where, we can't even... Like, that's the thing is, you can only have the emergency backup if your goalie gets injured, even if you only had one like they did tonight. The way they described, like, he got, Kolosov got banged up and maybe... tweaked something. He was stretching something. Maybe they sit him precautionary just to make sure. The way it sounded, it was like, well, maybe he can back up, and if he has to go in an injury or something. But no, they go out and not only have the emergency backup ready, but they sign him to the ATO so he can sit on the bench and go in, not just because of injury, but in case they needed him in relief tonight. So they have an actual backup on the bench. And that's very cool for, what was it, Kyle Conan?
Yeah, Conan.
Something, yeah. That's very cool for him. Like, he gets to be an NHL player for a night. If the Flyers had been trailing, I was like playing the scenario out in my head. They end up, Owen Tippett scores the game-tying goal, so it never gets to this. If the Flyers pull Fedotov for the extra attacker, give up the empty netter, now they're down 2-0. I think I would have put Conan in myself. Get him in there. Like, it's the thrill. You lost the game. It's 2-0. You haven't scored all night. We're going to come back now. Like, give the kid a thrill. Make the dude's day. Like, that's a hell of a story if he gets to go into a game. But it's a better story that the Flyers just play a normal game and win, dominate the shot battle, win it in the shootout, controlled a lot of this game. That was the really impressive part outside of Fedotov, I think, is the way they were able to control the action tonight without one of their best forwards, in Matvei Michkov. Tampa had their chances, sure, but you held them to 23 shots and spent a lot of time in the offensive zone. Didn't get as many chances as you would like. Yeah. But Vazzy made some good saves. They just missed on a few others. This was a pretty good performance for the Flyers all around.
Yeah, I mean, you got some really good performances, and like particularly like we talked about it while we were watching the game, but like that third line, they were just active. Joel Farabee had one of his better games too, but they had some really good opportunities. And not only that first line, TK and Tippett, the two wingers. I mean, obviously Tippett had the goal, but they were just peppering shots as well. So it was like overall, like it was some solid offensive performances, but you had some good line play, especially from that third line.
You do, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the offense tonight. But first, I got to tell you about our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Of course, now that I'm done betting on Owen Tippett, he has now scored goals in back-to-back games. So if you're just avoiding what I'm doing and maybe fading me, doing the opposite, Hopefully you made some money on Owen Tippett the last couple games after I bet on him all season and he never scored. We finally have back-to-back goals. But if you're going to be fading me, if you're going to be following me, whatever it is, you got to do it at Bet365. And right now, that's right now, you can download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And that brings us to one of my favorite reads to do, 1-800-588-2300
Today.
I love it. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the place to get new flooring. You know this. I know this. We all know this. So what does that mean? It means they've got copycats. And the copycats can't beat Empire on quality, service, or speeds. They just advertise low prices on low-quality products that Empire just simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that, just putting flooring in your home, they wouldn't put in their own. The Empire philosophy is to find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. And the virtual floor designer is a great way to see new floors and how they'll look in your space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how the new floors will look in any room. Schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHLY for details. Yeah, I was impressed with a few of the lines tonight. The first of which, it's funny because I feel like I didn't hear Morgan Frost's name at all during the game, but his line wasn't particularly terrible. But I think we need to start with let's start with Joel Farabee because a couple of games ago, the coach said he's actually praising Joel Farabee, like he's doing everything right. He's doing a lot of things really well, and the puck just isn't going in for him tonight. And he doesn't end up scoring again tonight. But he was one of the more notable Flyers, especially in a game that very little happened for a lot of it. Joel Farabee was one of the guys you're like, oh, yeah, he's out there. He's doing stuff. Like, he's making things happen. He's getting in on the forecheck. He had one rush chance that Vasilevsky just made the save on, set up a few good scoring chances that guys just weren't able to bury a few times. Farabee seems to really be getting his game going, but he has to score.
He does. That's what we kind of anticipated. Like, the thing is, too, Bill, is like we've seen him score. Like, we've seen him with some serious offensive production. But especially like in this game, I thought he did a really good job of setting people up. There was an opportunity, like 10 minutes left in the second period. He sets up Lawton, and Vasilevsky just does Vasilevsky things. And that's the type of things that we kind of saw from Farabee tonight. But like we talk about constantly getting some continuity with some of these lines. But I did like what Lutz, Forster, and Farabee did look like tonight.
I did as well. I want to talk about Anthony Richard real quick because we talked about him a lot. We talked about him a lot in the preseason. Really looked like he could have made this team if it just wasn't for listen, man, we got a lot of bottom six guys. We got a whole bunch of dudes who kind of do what we'd ask you to do. Comes up tonight, has a few chances, ends up playing 16 minutes even. He's -1, but it would have been so freaking sweet. If he scores on that breakaway at the end.
Dude.
Has the game on his stick, his first game in the NHL of the year. He does have some NHL experience.
Right.
But his first game up, it's against Tampa Bay. Vasilevsky. Like, that would just be such a cool moment. Like, and to help Fedotov get his first career win. Like, it would have been so cool. I was really rooting for him tonight. He was in Michkov's spot on the power play. Just didn't get a ton of power play time tonight. But I was really rooting for Richard as well. And it's fun. Tony Dick. Like, that's our guy. He's a favorite of the PHLY crew.
Love it, dude.
Simply because of that. But he scored for the Phantoms, and I don't know. I would like to give him a little bit more of a look while Ryan Paling's out.
No, 100%. And this is the first time that I was able to kind of watch him. And Dude, like the thing that you really notice is the dude's got some skates. This dude can fly on the ice. That's something that you definitely could use. That asset's huge, man.
Absolutely. And just looking at like the way while Ryan Poehling is out, they're going to be utilizing the forwards. Now, Michkov comes in, so that would, in theory, bump out one of Richard or Delorier. And when you look at the time on ice, tonight, they basically only played with 11 forwards. Delorier plays 5'11". Meanwhile, Hathaway almost 10 minutes, 9:59, and Cates 10:41, like doubling Delorier's ice time. I would like to see maybe Richard get a shot on that fourth line while Poehling's out, because why the hell not? Add a little bit of scoring punch to a group of Cates and Hathaway that drive play decently, get in on the forecheck. Like, they spend some time in the offensive zone typically, but who the hell's going to score?
Yeah.
Well, Richard, he's up here to score. Maybe he could help you out in that regard.
And Poehling's got some speed too, so it'd
Exactly.
be a seamless change up there.
It makes sense in terms of like the role he could play.
You're spot on, man. I would definitely love to see that. I mean, listen, we always talk about this. Like, Nick Delorier's a great dude, and you love when you see him in a fight at the Wells Fargo Center. But like, we need some guys with some skill. And like Richard, like, I don't know exactly how much skill he has, but I do know he's got some things that could actually help us. I'm like, Delorier, no offense, Nick.
No, it's just the role he'll be playing. Richard is a scorer, so maybe you want him in the top 9 and not on the fourth line. But ultimately, if he could score at the NHL level, he'd be up here probably for another team. Like, he'd be in the NHL. He's a very good AHL scorer, and it hasn't quite translated. So he's going to have a little bit different of a role up here. Maybe it could be as a fourth-line guy who does add a little bit of pop, because he does have the ability to score some. It's just like the other parts of the game. I don't know. I know he had a really strong preseason, and I want to see some more. And based on the way they utilized their forwards tonight, when Michkov comes back, this seems like a thing you might want to try.
Oh, 100%.
At least while Poehling's out, and you need that speed.
I mean, listen, this guy's trying to find a role in the league. Like, this guy's been bouncing around throughout the league the past couple of years. So he's just trying to find a role. If that's being on that fourth line as a winger, that's your role, brother. All
right. Next guy we need to talk about scores the game-tying goal in regulation, gets the shootout winner. It's Owen Tippett, the much-maligned Owen Tippett, the man who I have bet lots of beer and pizza money on to start this year, and failed to convert most of those bets. But now that I'm not betting him, he, of course, has goals in back-to-back games. I thought last game was a real step forward for him, not just because he scores the sick goal, because that shot was beautiful, but 10 shot attempts, 6 of them hit the net. Hitting the net is key for him. He has a strong shot, but it's not all that accurate. When he gets it on net, he's going to just score more. Like, you can't score when you miss. I realize you see that goal he scored. It's like, he misses because he's trying to pick corners. Like, that's what a goal scorer does. It's not like he's trying to hit the goalie in the chest, because those never go in either. But I thought it was a step in the right direction. He played well and under control in the last game, and that results in him having one of his better games of the season. Tonight, 8 shot attempts, only 3 hit the net, but only 1 miss. 4 get blocked. And to combat the blocks, he scores on the backhand, and I thought that was real impressive. We've seen him utilize that backhand before, and he's had some success with it, but it seems like sometimes playing that left side, he's on his off wing, he's trying to go across his body too much in order to get to his forehand, and that results in a lot of the block shots and the attempts that just get batted away and stuff. If he uses that backhand a little more, it might back defenders off, and that could give him the ability to get to his forehand sometimes, because that's what he wants to do. You saw it in the shootout tonight. He wants to be able to try to wire that puck over the goalie's shoulder, and he's good at that. So I get it. But I'm just really encouraged by some of the things I'm seeing out of Owen Tippett after a horrible start to the season in terms of goal scoring.
Yeah, well, it does seem like he's got his confidence back, right? And like when he's got that confidence going, those shots are gonna fire. I mean, dude, that Carolina shot was insane. The speed on that too. And that's another thing too we talk about too, how hard his shot can be. But tonight's goal was ridiculous as well. No one else better to get that game tire, man.
And now there's no one better to go to than Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer. It is Charlie O'Connor coming to us live from Tampa, Florida. Charlie, before we get to my nonsense, your thoughts on the game and anything that stood out to you from the team's post-game comments.
Yeah, I think my primary thought on this game is kind of as simple as that's more like it, because I know you said after Tuesday's game that you came away like, yeah, that wasn't that bad, and I was pretty negative on the game. 6 shots on goal the final 40 minutes. They obviously blew the game late. I came away dissatisfied with that performance. This performance, I know they only score 1 goal. This to me was as complete of a game as they've played in weeks. They took shots. They created chances. They played really good defense. Ivan Fedotov was easily the best he's looked since coming over to North America. Like, this is the kind of game. And to me, like, if they would have lost this game in a shootout or lost it in overtime, I would have felt the exact same way. This was a good performance by the Philadelphia Flyers. And I think that was the consensus by everybody in the room. John Tortorella made it clear that, look, we have a long way to go before we're where we want to be. And there's a lot of things that he feels like they still need to clean up, but you can build off of this. This is a game that on a lot of levels, offensively, defensively, goaltending-wise, they can build off of this game. And that would have been the case whether they won or not. That said, the fact that they won is still huge. I mean, they no longer have the worst record in hockey, or tied for it, which is definitely good for their confidence and their psyches, to be sure. But also, like, Tampa's a good team. They're not a great team anymore. They're not as good as they used to be. But, like, they're going to make the playoffs. That's the expectation. They're no scrub. And they went out there, and really, I would say overall, I think they outplayed the Lightning in this game. They kept pushing. I would say they outplayed them, and that makes me feel good about where the Flyers are right now. Much better than I felt on Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Tuesday was just kind of, hey, look, they scored some goals, and Carolina does what they do. Like, I was unsurprised by what happened, because Carolina is a cup-contending team that possesses the puck, and the Flyers had been playing terrible up to then. It was really the pace of the game more, and that they scored a few goals. But this looked like the team more from last season, especially the first 2/3, where not only did they suppress shots, what they've been doing more of. Tampa doesn't get a ton of shots. They shoot for a pretty high percentage, but they suppress shots and got their own for one of the first times all season. Like, how many times have they even won the shot battle this season? Like 2 or 3, maybe? I would just a guess. I don't want to do Michkov yet, because there was some good other stuff that happened in this one. The first thing is Fedotov. He played well tonight. Like you said, definitely the best he's looked since coming over. Do you think this start could get him into the mix as the #2 again?
I truly don't know. I don't know whether this has him jump Kolosov. Obviously, if Kolosov's hurt and he's out for an extended period of time, then yeah, I guess he is. He might be the #1, because Harrison's not quite ready yet. He's close. He's practicing. He's been on the ice for 2 straight morning skates. So he's clearly trending in the right direction. But he's not available yet. Kolosov wasn't available today. I mean, they signed an e-bug basically just to be there in case. So to answer your question, in the short term, it certainly puts him back in the mix. Now, after Harrison and Kolosov are healthy, not sure. But this is the first time, and I saw a lot of people say this on Twitter, and it feels like a backhanded compliment, but it doesn't make it any less accurate. This is the first time he really has looked like an NHL goalie. Like, it is. Aside from maybe that very first appearance when he came in relief at the end of last season, his very first time he was in goal. This is the closest he's looked to being a guy who you can say, yeah, like, I don't know if this version of Fedotov is a high-end NHL goalie. Like, he still looked kind of slow, moving laterally side to side. The goalie allows Kucherov in the first period. Like, he's a bit too far out of his net. He gets pulled away and then can't get back over. Like, that's not the best way to play that, to be sure. But made a lot of big saves, used his size. There was one play I noticed in the third period where they tried to do essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
They try to do a wraparound. And what does he do? He doesn't panic. He just sticks his enormous leg out and does it that way. Takes advantage of the fact that he's enormous. And it's not like that's going to stop being an advantage of his. Like, I imagine that that's how he made most of his saves in the KHL, just taking advantage of his size. This was the first game from start to finish where it looked like he was legitimately a 6'7", 6'8" goalie. He looked every bit the part in this game. I don't know if this is going to change the entire direction of his NHL career. I don't know if the Flyers are even going to make it so this puts him above Kolosov on the depth chart. But it at least gives you some hope. It gives you some hope that there's something there, and that's reassuring. Definitely feel better about him now than I felt 24 hours ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were joking in pregame, what if they just start the emergency guy? Because, like, what's he gonna be? Worse, And then Fedotov comes out and has the game he had, and more than anything, because there was some luck involved. Like, there are some flubbed shots and misses where it was like, but every goalie needs that. Sure. My hope is just it's a building block. Like, he's actually tasted success for the first time. It's his first career win. Now maybe he can stop looking so panicked. And I thought that was the biggest part of the shootout, honestly, was he looked normal in the shootout. It's the most normal he has looked since he's taken over the net when he came over last season. Like, he looked like a regular goalie during the shootout. So maybe that's something for him to build on. All right, I do want to ask about Mish now, Charlie, because that was the big story coming in.
Sure.
And I know you were there, so you didn't hear the broadcast. The ESPN team wasn't ready to talk about any Flyer but Michkov. They had prepared. They had prepared for that, and then when he's scratched, they were like, "Oh no!" But he didn't suit up tonight, and that's the story. But I watched your practice notes video today, and we've always said that this was a real possibility at some point. I don't think Mish has had a huge impact on games outside of he had the one assist a couple last game, but just haven't been hearing his name enough, honestly. How do you feel about the decision to bench him personally? Like, I know this is John Tortorella, it's a teaching tool, but what was your take on the decision as Charlie O'Connor, Philadelphia Flyers analyst?
Yeah, I think my take on the decision, and I haven't pushed it out on Twitter yet because the game was actually interesting. Yeah. So it was like, okay, let's focus on the game. I did publish a story for diehards breaking down why the Flyers decided to scratch Matvei Michkov, when he might be back in the lineup. I'm going to say right now, I don't know if he's going to be back in the lineup on Saturday. He might not be back in the lineup until they come back home. I don't know if that decision's been made yet, but just saying, I don't know if this is just a one-game thing. It might be a two-game thing. So know that. That's in the piece. But there's a lot more in there. I talked to some people around the organization, got a better read on what's going on. So check that out for PHLY diehards. If you're not a PHLY diehard, become a member and check out that story. But going back to my personal opinion, because that piece is more talking about why the Flyers did it, not really me, making an op-ed on my opinion. I think where I'm coming from is that it's hard for me to get too worked up about it because I expected this to happen at some point. And I do think that the issues with his 5-on-5 play are real. I've watched enough tape. I've seen enough to think that, like, the Flyers aren't just making this up. Yeah, his underlying 5-on-5 metrics are good. They are, absolutely. But his 5-on-5 defensive metrics aren't very good. And I think part of that is because the Flyers don't have the puck enough when he's on the ice, and I'd like him to improve so that they have the puck more so he can do more cool things offensively and create more great chances because he's an extremely skilled, extremely creative player. I think that those things are real. Those issues are real, and I get why the Flyers are trying to break those habits quickly. Also, it's John Tortorella. He was always going to do this, and we talked about this dating back to the summer, that there's a part of this, I think, that might be Tortorella making it clear to everybody in that room that Michkov isn't getting special treatment. That, everybody in that room has been in those tape study meetings over the last 2 weeks when they've been harping on the same things with Michkov. You're not doing this well enough, got to do it better. Because that's how those tape study sessions work. Everybody's in the room. Everybody's hearing their critiques. And they've been hearing, and I know this, they've been hearing for the last couple of weeks, them pointing out the same issues with Michkov. And everybody in that room knows that if it was another player, they'd be on the verge of getting sad because they keep pointing out a problem and Michkov hasn't been able to address it with his play. So there's an element to this where I think they almost not had to, because you don't have to do anything, but for them to stay consistent in the way that they are coaching this team, specifically John Tortorella, it was building to this. I also think that their view was that Michkov isn't the only person making these mistakes. He's not the only person that's disconnected from the attack and the offensive zone. He's not the only person who isn't swinging back up to be the third man high. There's a lot of guys who are doing it. When you bench Michkov for that, when you bench the golden boy, the guy who the media is obsessed with, who the fans understandably are obsessed with, it tells everyone on that team that no one is immune from this criticism, that the coaching staff is taking this critique seriously, and they're even willing to bench the kid who everybody's super excited about to make a point of how important it is that they fix this problem. I don't think it's a coincidence that this is the most connected they've looked offensively in the offensive zone in weeks, that it came after the scratch. Because I do think it wasn't just meant to be a message to Michkov, which it very much is. They want to make him a better player over the long term, and that's part of it. I also think scratching him was a little bit of a message to everybody else that, look, if we're willing to scratch him, we'll scratch anybody. So you guys better get your crap together. And I think that played into maybe a little bit of why they looked more connected in the offensive zone tonight. I really do.
Hey, Charlie, listen, I get Torts, and this is what he does, right? And this is like the standard he holds for everybody. And like, listen, if it's one game, like I think we're all fine with that. But where I'm kind of coming from it, and Bill brought up a really good point during pregame, what we've kind of seen from Michkov is that like some of these bigger games with the bigger stars, whether it be McDavid or even like tonight, you know, you're going up against Kucherov, right?
Right.
He feels like he does step up in those type of moments. And I feel like everyone's a different type of learner. So like we've seen in other games where, you know, Torts will sit Michkov out, you know, for a couple of shifts, teach him on the bench, and then he puts him out there. So I guess like, you know, is this the right move exactly to do with Michkov, I guess, is where I'm trying to go with?
Well, I guess we're going to find out. Like the biggest risk of doing this is not that they're going to piss off the fans, because you know what? Right. Number one, like Flyers fans are always mad. It's basically the Hulk and the Avengers. Like, what's your secret? Your secret is you're always angry. Like, if you're trying to avoid angering Flyers fans, like, you might as well just throw up your hands, because they're always going to be angry about something, even if you try to do everything that they want. So whatever, don't worry about that. That's not the risk. Yeah, they can deal with a bunch of fans yelling on Twitter. They do that every day anyway. The risk here is whether it results in Michkov responding in a negative way. They believe he's going to respond positively. And to be clear, they think he's going to be mad. They know he's mad. Guys are mad when they get scratched. He should be mad. He should be like, no, I want to play. I don't deserve to be scratched. I got 10 friggin' points in 13 games. I'm leading the Calder race. You scratch me, how dare you? They want him to feel that way. But what they don't want him to do is they don't want him to sulk. They want him to basically have that FU mentality of, you know, when I get back in, I'm going to show this coach that he was wrong. I'm going to show him that it was a mistake. That's what they want, and that's what they think they're going to get. The risk, though, is that he just tunes out the coach. Now, they don't think that's going to happen, but when you do these things, that's always a risk, especially when you're dealing with a player who, number one, can't speak English that well. Number two, they don't know all that much about him yet. He hasn't been here that long. They don't know all the idiosyncrasies. They don't know how he's going to respond to these things. So it's a risk. It's absolutely a risk that he might not handle this in the best way. My guess is that he'll handle it fine, and it'll just give him more fuel, more motivation to prove this jerk coach wrong. I think that's the way it's going to play out. But I can't deny that there is a risk element here, just like there was a risk element at the end of last season when he benched Sean Couturier. Like, when you make these big moves, you are taking a risk. Now, I don't know whether that ultimately was the good move or the bad move. Obviously, they missed the playoffs, so my guess is that it might have shaken out that room in a way that was negative, but we don't have to relitigate that. My point is that this is a big move, so it's a risk. They think it's a risk worth taking because they think he's going to benefit over the long term. I don't think they care. Like, JP, I don't think they care that much about, like, well, he missed a game against Tampa against Kucherov, because you know what? He's going to play Kucherov probably 40 more times in his career. Like, that's more something that just the fans are going to be disappointed about, because, like, the fans want to see Michkov as much as possible, because the fans are understandably excited, care about that. They want him to be the best player in the long term. They think this is going to help in that way. The risk, though, is what if he takes this the wrong way? And that's just something we're going to see.
Charlie, one stupid question for you, and then we'll move on. with Nikita Kucherov, probably the best Russian player in the league right now, on the other side, not to mention Vasilevsky going for his 300th win, does this count as scratching Michkov in his hometown?
Was this as close as he could get? Maybe.
Is this the
I don't know.
closest thing he could do?
I mean, either it would either be this or Ovechkin.
Or
right?
Ovechkin,
Scratching the first game against Ovechkin.
He played against Kaprizov, he played against Ovi, but here's two legitimately legendary Russians. You're not playing tonight, kid.
Sorry.
That's funny to me. Before we get to 3 stars, I want to talk about Joel Farabee. He again wasn't. He doesn't end up on the score sheet, but I thought he was one of the most notable forwards out there tonight. He was definitely making some things happen. His teammates handle passes or just, a little bit more on a shot here or there. He could have had a few points. What are you seeing out of Farabee right now?
He seems close, man. He really does. And I think it's interesting. John Tortorella has been more than willing over the last week and a half to just bury guys, bury Owen Tippett, bury Morgan Frost. He's willing to go out there in front of the media and just be like, yeah, we need more. They're not playing well. Whenever Farabee comes up, he's like, yeah, he's playing well. He's just not getting rewarded. And I actually thought that might have been a little charitable. Some games he's played well. Other games I thought he's been invisible. Tonight, though, he was everywhere. He could have easily had 2 or 3 points in this game. And if he keeps playing like this, I know there are a lot of people on Twitter. I see them in my mentions who are out on Joel Farabee. They've just decided I'm done with this guy. I'm not there. I think he's a good player, and I do think he's on the cusp. That said, he still has to get over the cusp. He has to get over that threshold and actually turn these good plays into points. And some of that's out of his control. Some of that is other guys got to finish when he sets them up. But a lot of that's on him, too. He has to keep making these plays. And if he does, he is ultimately going to get rewarded, but he can't get frustrated. He can't start thinking man, the world's against me. Nothing's going my way. And then he falls back into a slump and goes back to not being a nightly impact contributor. Tonight, he was an impact contributor, even if he didn't end up in the score sheet. And if he gives you 2, 3, 4 straight games like this, he's going to end up on the score sheet because this is the kind of process that gets you goals and assists. It didn't tonight. It will in the future, but he's got to keep playing like this to get that reward, and we'll see if he can.
All right, it is now time for Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. Charlie, hit us with star number 3.
So star number 3, another guy who didn't end up on the score sheet, but I thought had a really strong game, Sean Couturier. I thought Couturier was everywhere in this one. He didn't get rewarded in the same way, but his game reminded me a lot of the way he played against Minnesota. He was owning the net front and low slot. We had a couple tips that nearly went in, deflections. He was right there. He was battling in front. That line with him, Tippett and Konechny was clearly the team's best all game long. I thought Couturier looked real good in this one. Kind of a bummer he didn't get rewarded with at least an assist, but by the eye test, he killed it. And kind of like Joel Farabee, if he plays like that every night, he's going to get rewarded, even if he didn't get rewarded in this one. So for that reason, Sean Couturier is my 3rd star.
And to your point, the coach rewarded him. First time all season, he's played back-to-back games over 20 minutes. 2011 at Carolina, 23-27 tonight.
23, wow.
Yeah, wow. At Tampa. So Torts must like what he's seeing as well. Charlie, star number 2.
2nd star, I'm going to go with Owen Tippett. It just seems like he's finally getting going. And that goal, the goal he scored on Tuesday, that was a goal scorer's goal. That was just a pick in the corner snipe. This one was just a get the puck on net. And I do think he took advantage of the fact that Konechny is going down the wing as well, because probably that lets Vasilevsky get a little bit off of his angle. But that's a goal that you get as a reward for all the shots that you've taken over the course of a year. You're going to get a fortunate thing where hey, you just happen to get that backhander at the exact right angle and it hits the exact right spot and you get rewarded. It just seems like he's playing freer. Obviously, he scores the game winner in the shootout as well. It seems like he's just playing with more confidence, which makes sense. Puck's finally starting to go in for him. Look, the Flyers need Owen Tippett to be they really need him over the long term to take a step forward beyond where he has been the past 2 years. But at the very least in the here and now, they need him to be the guy he was the last 2 years. And he hadn't been over the first, 12 games. Last 2 games, it might be finally starting to come back. Tippett, obviously, with the huge goal that keeps them from getting shut out, and then having to take this as a moral victory rather than just an actual victory. Look, moral victories are great. Real victories are better. If Owen Tippett doesn't come through, they probably don't get a real victory. So for that reason, Owen Tippett, my second star.
And now it's time for Charlie O'Connor's first star of the game.
Yeah, this is Fedotov. It's got to be Fedotov. And look, he wasn't perfect. You'd like to see him play that Kucherov wraparound a bit better, not get pulled so far out of his net. But beyond that, didn't give up a single goal. Didn't give up a goal in a shootout either. Like, he was as good as you can expect him to be. And I think what's even more notable is just how unexpected it was. Like, we didn't expect him to start this game. Obviously, Kolosov gets banged up in the pregame skate, the morning skate this morning. Leaves a little bit early. They end up having to bring Fedotov in. I don't know the next time they were going to play Ivan Fedotov. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was getting the sense that Kolosov was going to play every game on this trip. Then Ersson was going to come back in, and it was going to go back to being those two. And maybe Fedotov was eventually going to either get a conditioning stint or just straight up sent down to the minors at some point in the next week. He has changed the narrative maybe of his season. At the very least, now they have to think, maybe we do keep 3 goalies. 2 guys are a little banged up. Maybe they suffer another injury. Fedotov, for the first time, looked like an NHL goalie. Maybe he can build on this. I wouldn't say I was out completely on Fedotov. I thought it was possible that he could do some remedial work over time. I didn't think he was going to be able to do it as quickly as he did. Like, I thought if this is going to work, he's going to have to go down to the AHL for a while. He's going to have to rebuild his game. It's going to take months. And then maybe in the second half, he can come up and be better. I didn't think that after a 2-week stint on the bench, he was going to come out looking not even great, but just this much better than he did the last couple of times he's been in net. And to his credit, he found a way. Now, whether this is sustainable, I don't know. But for this game, he played against a legitimately good team with a lot of high-end talent, and he made a bunch of big saves. And the Flyers don't win this game if he doesn't go out there and put together a really strong performance in a really tight situation, with really no other goalie option. Like, if he would have been bad, he would have given up 10 goals tonight, because I don't think they were putting that E-bug in. Like, the cavalry was not coming for Ivan Fedotov, and he held down the fort. He held down the fort with a really strong performance. For that reason, he's my number 1 star tonight.
Ivan Fedotov, the number 1 star. He became tonight the 51st Flyers goalie to record a victory for the franchise, tying Cam Talbot for 50th. One more, Charlie, and he'll move into a tie for 49th with Cal Peterson.
All
right. Flyers legends. All right, Charlie. That's
Charlie, real quick, because
go ahead.
People are asking right now on social media, did the Squirrel saxophone song make a comeback this year?
I didn't hear it. I heard a couple songs that I didn't recognize. Had not heard the Squirtle sax song. I can say that Ivan Fedotov did get the wrestling belt tonight.
Nice.
Well deserved.
Songs Charlie didn't recognize. My God. What could those even be?
You're going to have to Shazam like Zach Berman. All right.
There you go. All right. That is Philadelphia's number 1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, coming to us live from Tampa. He'll be back with us in post-game from Sunrise. Charlie, go enjoy Miami, while you're down there. I'm just saying. Maybe go out a little. Why not? All right, Chuck. I'll talk to you on Saturday.
All right. See you guys.
That's Charlie O'Connor. And before we wrap up tonight's show, I got to tell you about one of my favorite sponsors. Hopefully, Charlie has him with him. It's Shady Rays. I almost forgot to pause there. I was already thinking of jokes about Charlie going to Miami wearing Shady Rays.
He did look a little sun-kissed. I'm not gonna lie.
It's him, man. All right, you got to get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. And they have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. What I go with, I've got a couple of pairs of these now, the tangle-free aviators. You know how it is. You stop at Wawa, get something to eat, whatever it is. You're going to go into the store, you're driving, it's sunny. You're going to put your glasses up on your head. What happens typically? You go and take them out. The glasses pull your hair out with those little nose pieces. Not when you're wearing the tangle-free Shady Rays, so check those out. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And while we're here, I got to talk to you about Rothman Orthopedics because everyone has a specialty they love. For some, it's running or gardening. For others, scoring goals or dropping the gloves. At Rothman Orthopedics, their physicians are not only specialized in orthopedics and clinical research, but they are fellowship trained to treat specific areas of the body. And since 1970, their physicians have remained committed to research, innovation, and minimally invasive procedures to get you back to what you specialize in. They're Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today. Yeah, I want to talk a bit more about what Charlie just said about Matvei Michkov before we get to the Super Chats. That is very disheartening to think. And I know this was always... I went in thinking like, oh, yeah, they're going to win tonight because why wouldn't they? But I didn't actually think that was a real possibility with Fedotov in net.
Right.
Like Tampa, they've been struggling a little. They came in losing 3 in a row, but they're 4-1 at home. Even without Braden Point, they have enough star power that I was like, oh, they're going to get like 6 shots off that Fedotov just has no chance on. But that didn't turn out to be the case, and now we're facing the fact of coach don't like changing up. I mean, no coaches really do like changing up the lineups after a win. You've been preaching something to the team. They go out and execute it. And then you're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Guys are still going to come out of the lineup. Like, they don't like doing that. It sends the wrong message.
Right.
That said, like, you did have a guy play only 5 minutes tonight. You could get Michkov back in there. But this is what I'm hoping is because Tortorella apparently told the media but did not tell Michkov. Like, oh, yeah, he's up there, and I want him to watch the whole game. Like, they commented during the broadcast, like, he sees, the replays of his shifts on the iPad or in film study. But we want him to watch the whole flow of the game, and Torts is going to quiz him. Like, just to make sure he paid attention to all, 65 minutes of the action. My hope is that Mish is prepared for this quiz and earns his way back into the lineup by telling Torts what he needs to tell him to kind of get that confidence back and get himself back in. Because, listen, as long as it's not as at home, you're not going to run into a ton of criticism. And I do think you can learn things by watching. I do think that there is value. I know during the broadcast, one of the players on the intermission report was like, nah, you don't learn anything up there.
Is it Ryan Callahan?
Is that who it was? Was it Callahan? I don't remember. I'm mostly tweeting at intermission. But I do think you can learn some things, especially as a 19-year-old who might not have the fullest grasp on them telling you. Like, it's a different language. If someone were to start telling me, like, I understand some things well enough that I'm like, I probably know what they're saying. If they're the point, like, and say words I don't understand, I'm like, I get the gist. But, like, I can't speak Russian. I don't expect him to know English right away either. It's like maybe he's a visual learner and just seeing it in front of him play out for an entire game will help him. That said, a 2-game benching for the dude who's second on the team in scoring, that seems silly.
Dude, do I have to stay back to Philly? Because I'm kind of worried about you on Saturday. If we get the news,
it's just
Michkov
like
scratched for the second straight game.
It's just like, again, he's the main character of the season. And there's a lot of dudes who this season is about. The goalies, for instance, all 3 of them now. Like, I want to see what these guys have and maybe what they can be going forward. We've talked endlessly about Jamie Drysdale and Tyson Forster, Owen Tippett, Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee. All these guys that, jury is still out and we're evaluating. But Michkov is the one that makes everything else matter. Like, it doesn't matter what Joel Farabee turns into. Oh, yeah, he's a nice second-line left winger. Yeah. If we don't have our franchise player, like, whether it's he's mad about this or they're not developing him right, whatever it is, like, I just don't see how sitting him 2 games in a row helps anyone.
I completely agree with
Plus,
you.
I gotta watch this game. I want to see Matvei Michkov,
no,
you know?
that's why a lot of people in Philadelphia are watching the Flyers right now, so they can watch Michkov and see how he does develop there. It is super frustrating to kind of see. That's why I said earlier, like, I'm fine with the benching here tonight. But if we're talking about back-to-back nights where he's getting benched off a healthy scratch, like, what are we doing here? What exactly is it that we're doing?
And John Tortorella will just say it's to help him. This is a teaching tool. A lot of people learn by doing, though, and sometimes you have to play through your mistakes. More than anything, I wonder if just the grind of the season, because they've had a weird schedule, starting out on the West Coast and then everything coming home. Like, I'm not here to accept that excuse from Travis Konechny or Owen Tippett. It's like, you've been in the NHL long enough. Get it together. Travis Sanheim. Like, this is not an excuse for you.
Right.
But the 19-year-old Russian immigrant who was playing on what was essentially a minor league team in Sochi. Like, the KHL is a few really rich teams that run the league, and then a whole bunch of other teams that are just on the schedule because those rich teams need someone to beat up en route to the playoffs.
So college football.
Yeah, exactly. And like Sochi, he's on loan from SKA to Sochi. He's on one of those fake teams. He's essentially on a minor league team last year, and now he's a 19-year-old rookie. Like, perhaps there are elements that he's like, yeah, he's really never had to play a team game last year because his line mates last year were me and you. You know, like, I wouldn't pass to me either. I wouldn't be concerned about defense either. Like, this team is fake. I'm going to go make highlight plays. Like, I just think there might be something too. Like, he does have a lot of things to learn. He is a 19-year-old rookie, 13 games into his NHL career. Like, take a step back. We don't need to go nuts about this. But at the same time, like,
dude,
play.
All I was worried about at 19 is, like, where are we grabbing a beer tonight?
Exactly. Yeah, at 19, I was on my second sophomore year. Like, it's what it is. He's already way ahead of that. I did want to ask Charlie more about Coots, but since we are running short on time, let's hit those super chats. I think we have a few of them. So let's get started here with starting with JW Novak. Ersson looked rough to start last year, too. Not sure about turning point, but lets me believe Fedotov can possibly turn it around. I'll take it. Yeah, the Ersson thing was explainable last year, I thought, a little bit more, just in that Hart was getting a vast majority of the starts. Ersson's always been a starter. He came up later in the previous season, and he played 10 games where he looked competent. So it was like, I think he's going to turn this around. Like, I've seen him look good before. It's just adjusting to this new role and everything. And, like, goalies go through cold streaks. Yeah. It's just like when you start the season on one, it's like, oh, well, he sucks. Like, you know, but we'd seen a little bit more of Ersson to give us a baseline of he's probably competent. Exactly. And then he gets it together. It was only, I think, 3 games where he really looked terrible. And then from November through January, he was excellent before he really started playing a ton. But, yeah, I think Fedotov looking like absolute garbage to start the season rather than like 10 games in. Yeah, if his first 2 starts go well and then he goes on a 3-game streak of, oh man, he's bad. It's like, oh, well, let's see if he can get back to what he was. But since we have no baseline, I do think there's something to that, and hopefully this is something for him to build on because it's better for them if he's not horrible.
100%, man. We still don't even know what we have with Fedotov, but yeah, we're just hoping that this is something that we can build off of.
And it's so hard to evaluate everyone else if your goalies stink.
That's true.
So it's like everyone can do the right thing in all 3 zones. It's like, yeah, but they're going to get a shot through eventually. And if that shot goes in, like, how do we evaluate?
The Cal Peterson game against Penguins.
Exactly. All right. Let's hit JH next. Is Fedotov a boat? I think we're just hoping he's a nice bicycle at this point.
Just don't be the Titanic. That's all I ask.
I'm just hoping he's something. More than that, like, my thought about Fedotov this whole time has been in, what would that be? February or March of 2026. He's good enough that you can flip him at the trade deadline. Oh. Like, that's what I've always hoped, is when that final year of the 2-year contract, you're able to turn him into literally anything else. Because he's going to be like almost 20. He'll be 29, I think, at that point.
Right.
Like, what do we need a 29-year-old goalie re-signed for with the stock of goalies we have? He'll then, of course, turn into Stoli the goalie, and we'll be like, oh, my God. Of course, we traded away this guy who's now a franchise goalie. But I think we're a little...
It's the Flyers way, Bill.
far away from that with Fedotov still. All right, another one from JW Novak. He says, we always hear about Michkov playing in front of Ovi, Kuch. Maybe it was Fedotov in front of another Russian goalie that brought it out of him. Yeah, perhaps. I'm sure there was a little extra motivation there.
Stole the night, man.
And I also think he didn't have all day and all week to think about tonight's game. He was going to be sitting on the bench, backing up. And then all of a sudden, Kolosov seen leaving practice, stretching in the tunnel, and it's like, oh, I guess I'm starting. Like, and then he takes his nap, and then he's in. Like, there was no time. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure there was a little extra motivation. Like, that's Vasilevsky over there. This dude, a couple of cups, a Vezina, like Conn Smythe. He's pretty freaking good.
It's a good matchup.
All right, this next one from Rypar. Must play the Russian national anthem for Ivan Fedotov, number 82. I've seen enough. Fedotov better than Vasi. Tonight he was. Tonight he came through. I'm happy for him. More than I don't know if this guy's any good. He might have a 700 save percentage in the next game. If he starts against the Panthers, they might kill him. I'm just happy for him. He has an NHL win. That's something like of the 66 goalies have played a game for the Flyers. 15 of them now never recorded a win. He's one of the guys with a win. That's cool.
You know what else too, Bill? Like I thought of, like we don't even think about this, but Fedotov's had like a heck of a couple of years too. You know, trying to get his
life
legs
is insane.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna be a movie.
Yeah, yeah, literally.
And like if tonight's game is the end of a movie, it's a good freaking movie. Like it's a really good movie.
This was a Stanley Cup right here.
Like it could be Cool Runnings. Like you don't need the gold medal to make a good movie. Sometimes it's just like about overcoming adversity. And for one night, he did it. Good for him. I'm happy for him.
Absolutely, man.
All right, let's hit this next one. Another one from JW Novak. Given it's a rebuilding year and we do not know what we have, I would be perfectly fine rolling all three goalies. Don't hurt Ersson discovery year. Yeah, this is a fact-finding year. We've said that. This is an evaluation year for a ton of guys. I'm fine with keeping three, especially considering what we have on the like. Who cares? Like,
yeah.
Oh, we need this roster spot for Eric Johnson and Nick Delorier. It's like, or do we? Like, and it's the Flyers. Like, people are gonna get hurt. It's hockey. It's a contact sport. They have to. A couple of days ago, it was like, oh yeah, this roster's kind of full. How are we gonna work this? And now it's like, oh, Cam York's out. We have no idea what's going on with Ryan Poehling.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what are they going to do when York comes back? Well, we have no idea when Poehling's coming back. We don't know what the injury is. We don't know what the family situation is. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
no, yeah.
Why not roll with three, especially while you have the space?
Goalie's super important and no one solidified a role. I agree with it, man.
No, and that's like so much because I don't know about Kolosov and
exactly.
I think he's going to be an NHL goalie and he's skilled enough to maybe keep his head above water, but he's a developmental prospect. And again, we have a 27, almost 28-year-old in Fedotov. Like, it's about Ersson more than anything. And you need to keep him clean. You need to not start him the way you did last year if you're actually going to find out what he is, because that's just not how goalies are used anymore. Like, there's no more Brodeurs. No one's starting 70 games.
No.
So doing that to him, like, you couldn't evaluate him last year.
Right.
Because, yeah, man, he's tired. I don't know what to tell you.
Man, the man's ready for the season.
He's just over. So, yeah, I think mostly just in terms of keeping Ersson clean, keep all three.
I'm in.
All right. Let's see. From, what's that say? Scotty's Wild Adventures. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Good night and good hockey. Absolutely, Scotty. Love a good Gene Hart reference. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for the super chat. From my favorite commenter, W. Boro Goal. Do you think Tippett can improve his accuracy, or is it too late? I think it would make a big difference. Also, please find out if the e-bug got paid. I'm sure. I think there's.
What does it even entail? Like how much?
I think there's like a per diem thing. I don't think it's like. prorated NHL contract. I think it's just whatever per diem is. I think they get that. I remember there was a dude, I think he worked at Hollydale and he worked at the Flyers training facility a few years ago. He was in this situation for the Blackhawks when the Blackhawks were in Philly without a goalie. And I think I remember them saying, like, yeah, he gets a jersey and he gets per diem. I believe that's how it works. But what was the first part? Oh, can Tippett improve his accuracy? You got to hope. I mean, maybe it's too late. It might be something we have to just live with. But if that's the case,
stick. Remember that last year?
That's the thing, is he got hot with Konechny's stick, and then immediately when he got a new batch, went back to his old ones. So I don't know. But right now, I don't think he's using TK's. I think he's using his own. Okay. Maybe he would benefit from a shorter stick. I don't know. If this is what his accuracy is gonna be, they just have to work on finding more ways to get him to the middle of the ice. Like, that's the thing, is on the angle shots, you're gonna miss because it's a low percentage play. He needs to get his ass into the middle of the ice and take higher percentage shots, and he'll just be more accurate because he's facing the goalie. All right, is this the last one? Is it Vince? Of course, why not us? Vince. And that is this the last one? All right, and that is what we will wrap up on. Vince, I always love your optimism. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. Before we go, I got to tell you about the watch party Saturday, damn it. Yeah. Come on out to Screwballs at King of Prussia. Go to allphly.com right now to get your $10 ticket, which enters you into the raffle to win 2 Flyers tickets to the Golden Knights game. You get $30 in concession credit on those tickets and 2 complimentary Coors Lights at the watch party. Going to do a live pre- and post game, so you're going to want to stick around for those as well. Have some beers with me and watch the Flyers take on those Florida Panthers. All right. Follow us right here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you hit that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. We'll be back with that pre- and post-game from Screwballs on Saturday. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. That's where I do all my tweeting. Basically, all my hockey tweeting now is on at PHLY_Flyers. I only talk about like wrestling and nonsense on my own personal account. So make sure you're following there. And follow the podcast. Wherever you get those, just search PHLY Flyers. That'll do it for us. My name is Bill Matz. That's JP Zapata. Till next time, let's go Flyers.
Let's go.
We all silly like the mayor.